Welcome back to the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. Got two great guests here today from Phoenix, Arizona via Zoom. One is Jim Barrett, a 1958 graduate of North Tonawanda. His son, better known as George Edward, is it Edward? Edward George Barrett, played at North Tonawanda up until his JV year, probably his sophomore year, but we'll find out about that. You know, he goes by Ted Barrett, and in the baseball circles, he's Major League umpire Ted Barrett. Gentlemen, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you today. I've had to redo my bucket list and put you guys near the top again, so then I can cross it off. Thank you for joining me here today on the YouTube channel. How's things in Phoenix, Arizona today?
Oh, it's beautiful here today, and thanks for having us on. This is a lot of fun for us to do this together, and so thank you for having us today.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
My pleasure. Jim Barrett, 1958. You played in the 1957 and 1956 season. You played with some pretty good ball players. You had a pretty good coach in George Vetter and Doc Rogow and Al Magliscu. Talk about those days back then when you played football at NT.
Yeah, well, you just about summed it up. We had three coaches. And nowadays, they got like three coaches for each position. But yeah, it was fun. It was short season. I wish it could have lasted a lot longer than it did in the life. But yeah, there's really not much to add to when you say Al Magliscu, Doc Rogo, and George Vetter. That about sums up football in North Tonawanda in them days.
What do you remember about those three coaches?
Just they were all gentlemen. You never see them lose their temper on the field or at practice ever. They were role models. They were someone to set yourself up to follow, and you wouldn't be disappointed in life.
You were number 13. Any superstition in your life, or better yet, why did you get number 13?
Well, because at that time when we got our game jerseys, which is about the only new thing you got when you got your uniform, you all lined up, and then you go up to a window, and they would kind of look at you, and they would give you an appropriate jersey. Well, when I got up to my turn, and Doc Rogo says, "Barrett, are you superstitious?" And I said, "No, I don't think so, not really." And he said, "Here," and he just threw me the jersey. So I was number 13 from that time on.
What was the positions you played for North Tonawanda?
Actually, I was funny. I was like Vetter always said, I was the second string backfield because I played tailback, wingback, quarterback, and fullback.
Okay, so 1 year. Go ahead.
Fortunately, I never had to go into the game and play as a quarterback because our quarterback never got hurt. But there was a lot to remember at that position.
1 year you backed up Joe Oliverio, correct?
I didn't back him up, but I played at the same time. Yeah. I don't think Joe had a backup quarterback. He wasn't supposed to get hurt.
What are your recollections of the Niagara Frontier League back in the 1950s? A lot of good schools back then. Niagara Falls, I think Trot Vocational was there. LaSalle was there. Tonawanda was there. At that point, there was only one Kenmore school.
Yeah, we had Lackawanna.
What do you recall about that?
Well, it was a good league. All the schools, they'd been playing together for so long against each other that all the rivalries, even if it wasn't a natural rivalry like Tonawanda and North Tonawanda, the TNT game, even if we were playing Niagara Falls, that was a rivalry because you'd been going at each other over the years. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. Plus, we had two affiliate schools, Olean and Jamestown, and they changed a little bit over the years. But to get our 8 games, we had the 8 Niagara Frontier League teams. That gave us 7 games, and we had to have one more. So half of the league would play Olean, and the other half would play Jamestown. But they didn't count in the league standings.
How would you describe the equipment?
So that's about
How would you describe the equipment that you had?
Ankledated. It was really not much. Shoulder pads that didn't protect anything. And we had, I think, my freshman and sophomore year, use anything at bars. I think our junior year, they gave us a single bar, and we wore that for 2 years. Just a single bar across your face. If you wore glasses, you couldn't wear them in the game because we didn't have contacts or, the sports glasses like they have today. It was either be blind or wear your glasses and take your chances. But
you settled in North.
Funny, they had a drill.
Go ahead.
Like I say, they had a drill for the defensive backs where they'd send the receiver out for the pass, and you had to cover him. And Mr. Vetter would hold fingers up on one hand, and you had to cover the receiver and then be able to tell Coach how many fingers he had up. Well, we didn't take it into account that most of us wore glasses and we didn't have them on. So how many fingers, it was just a guess because no one could see that far.
Did he ever realize that he was doing it incorrectly because some of the guys weren't wearing their glasses?
Yeah, well, none of us, we just couldn't wear them. They get broken for a couple of scrimmages. So, yeah, I don't know. No one ever stood up and said, "No, Mr. Vetter, I can't see." I think that might have been a quick ticket to the bench.
For a lot of years, you had your family, you lived in North Tonawanda, and you had some sons that played sports here. Jim, I got to ask you, did you want your kids to play sports, football, any other sports as well, too? Did you give them a little nudge, or did they do it upon themselves, take it upon themselves to do it?
Yeah, they all took it upon themselves to do it. I didn't push them or, drag them or anything. In fact, I don't know. Funny story is, this is on Ted. He wanted to play Little League baseball, and I didn't like Little League sports at the time because I didn't like the way the parents and stuff acted. And so turns out he didn't care about that. He went and signed himself up anyhow. So I didn't realize he was playing until I got a call from somebody telling me it was my turn to work in the refreshment stand. And I said, why would I want to do that? They said, well, your son. And I said, well, I don't have anybody playing baseball. And they said, well, your son signed up. So
would that have been a little secret? Would that have been a little secret between mom and son as well?
I think just son. I don't think mom knew either. Because otherwise we'd have been down to the games.
Ed, though, he was the biggest supporter of all of us playing sports, and we Friday nights we went to the North Tonawanda football game. That's what we did as little kids. My oldest brother Jerry played on. He was the class of '79, and he was on some great teams. And I played youth football at the Tonawanda Football Clinic, myself and my brothers, and Dad actually coached a team. And my brother Tom and I played on another team, and we played against his team in the championship. So, it was all about football, all sports. My oldest brother played hockey. My brother Tom wrestled. I played basketball and baseball at NT. But football was the main game in our house. And so Sundays we were watching the Bills. Monday night we were allowed to stay up late and watch the Monday night game. So, yeah, Dad was the biggest supporter. And I don't think he missed any of my games. I know my freshman year, we played at 3 o'clock. I think he'd get off early to come. A lot of times, I remember a game at Looport when I scored a touchdown. I think he was the only one in the stands on our side.
It was raining.
It was raining in the rain. He was there. My sophomore year, I scored a touchdown, I think at Lancaster. And I think you and Mom were running late getting there. You might have missed it, but.
I think we had a flat tire on the freeway getting to Lancaster, and I thought I had enough time, but the game started a half hour sooner than I thought it did. And when we got there, everybody was running off the field, and I thought it was halftime, and it wasn't. The game was over.
I didn't score a whole lot of touchdowns. He missed that one, but
yeah, you caught one that time, yeah.
But all through college, him and Mom, and they were at just about every game in college, and
home and away.
And away. So, yeah, he was our biggest supporter. He said if you play a sport, I think he said when we got into high school, we had to get a job unless we were playing a sport. So I think all of us played a sport really because we didn't want to work a job.
Good stuff. Ted, I want to ask you about your freshman year and your JV year of football. What do you recall from those years?
Well, my freshman year at Payne, that was a lot of fun. Coach Jamula and Coach Frank were our coaches, and a lot of good buddies. I played with Pat Kennedy was our quarterback, and Mark Lemke was on that team, and we just I think we played about 6 games. We lost to Resl, which was a heartbreaker. Bobby Bonner was on the Resl team, and he was running over us. But, you know, a lot of the guys that we were friends with from elementary school, and now we're playing against them. I just had a lot of fun playing at Payne, and we got to play on that field that I grew up going to watch games at as a kid, and that was really cool. There was nothing like Vetter Stadium. You know, even as I traveled and moved to California and played on other fields, I would tell guys about this great stadium. And how cool was it? That was a field that my dad played on, that my brother played on, that my uncle played on. So it was really a good tradition to be a part of that.
You're speaking to one of your JV coaches the other day, Stan Russin. This is what he said about you. Great athlete and teammate. Players like Ted Barrett make coaching fun. Quite the tribute to going back to someone who's like 15 years old, wouldn't you say?
That's high praise coming from Coach Russin. And I remember we were getting ready to play a team as my JV year that ran the option, and they showed some film where Coach Russin was a defensive end defending the option. And I remember just watching him play. I think he was at Mesa College or they were playing Mesa. And but I just remember he was like a Superman to me. You know, big, strong guy, and he's someone that I aspired to be. And so he was a great coach and really helped develop me. Coach Yeager was the head coach, and loved playing for him. And, you know, sophomore year, playing with a lot of those guys now that came from Resl. And now we're back together again playing in 10th grade. And that was a lot of fun, too. I also remember going to camp that year with the varsity. Would we go down in Dunkirk?
Fredonia.
Down in Fredonia. Went to camp and nothing but practices all day and getting away from everything else and just concentrating on football with the varsity and Coach Anastasi, and that was a lot of fun.
I got to ask you, Ted, in your Wikipedia page, you list North Tonawanda, where you grew up in. That's usually not the case, and everybody elsewhere would say Western New York or the Buffalo area. How important is it to maintain that roots of North Tonawanda?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in that's you know, that's where I grew up. That's what formed me, I think, as a man. And you know, I have great friends still that I grew up with, and I really enjoy catching up with them on the road when I can. My brother still lives there, although I kid him. He moved to Grand Island now. We call him a traitor, but no, we love him. His house is always open to me when I come through. Getting to see Pat Kennedy, who was coaching there, coaching football, and so we would just stay in touch. This guy here is the biggest North Tonawanda fan there is. He watches all the games and gets all the scores and everything we can. So, yeah, I just take a lot of pride being from there. And I was telling a player the other day, there was doing a spring training game, a young kid came in to catch, and I think he was from around Albany, and I told him I was from North Tonawanda. He said, I know where that is. So, yeah, a lot of my umpire friends, they know North Tonawanda. I've taken some of them back there to visit, shown them Niagara Falls. So they know the pride that I take being from there.
Got to ask both of you, how tough was it leaving NT right around 1980 or 1981?
We moved?
Yeah, 1981.
How tough was that?
Well, you know, for me, I just played JV football, basketball, baseball, and you know, so it was tough for me. But you know, it ended up being a good move. You know, you look back on things in your life that And I know with my dad, he knew I was upset, but he said, "Hey, this is going to be a good move for you." You know, looking back on it, I think the toughest things was my brother Tom had joined the Navy, so he was kind of off on his own. We left our brother Jerry there, but he came back later. But I think it was a good move for me because we got out to California and it was sports year round. I did miss North Tonawanda, miss my friends, but I didn't miss the snow. I didn't miss having to go inside in April to get ready for baseball season. We were already teeing it up in January. So, but I'll let him speak to that on his leaving.
Oh, well, that was no, I mean, I didn't mind leaving Western New York. I know I missed my friends all in North Tonawanda, but me and the wife decided, but it doesn't snow in California, so that's where we wanted to go because we didn't like the white stuff anymore. It was getting too hard on the bones and I was falling all the time. So, yeah, so we moved out there, but it's funny, after we moved to the Bay Area where the weather is nice year round, fairly nice, we moved up to Redding, California, which is a 4 seasons town. They get snow, you know, get the sunny weather, the snow. So we actually moved right back to it. But I will say it was not as severe. So you just got a kind of a taste of snow. And that was better than getting it right like you do when you're sitting in North Tonawanda.
I think the blizzard of 77 did him in, Ed. It just took him a few years to finally move.
Blizzard of 77 did a lot of people in at that point. I mean, that was a tough time. Ted, I want to talk about, you played at Cal State Hayward. You got a degree in kinesiology, which isn't something that's readily available at any school or anybody would want to undertake, or they don't even understand what kinesiology is. You had some, after college, you had interesting jobs being a sparring partner for 7 world champions. Holyfield, Tyson, Razor Ruddock. Can I ask you what made you get into being a sparring partner?
Well, you know, I was boxing and I thought maybe I could do it for a living. And then I moved out to, went out to Las Vegas and, you know, started sparring with some, you know, a big guy that can take a punch. And I became, you know, in demand for a sparring partner. Found out it wasn't a very good way to make a living. And as a matter of fact, about that time, Dad offered to pay for me to go to umpire school. And I thought, okay, 5 weeks in Florida, I'll get away from getting punched for a while. And so I took him up on it, and I went to Florida for umpire school. But, you know, again, growing up in NT, it was, you know, we were tough kids. We would fight, you know, after school, 3 o'clock. You know, it's what we did, playing King of the Hill before school. And, you know, that's the thing kids don't do now that we did a ton of. You know, it was street hockey, it was football in the backyard, it was basketball, baseball. And, you know, as kids, guys, we'd sometimes get in fist fights. And so it was, I guess, going to boxing, I kind of had a knack for it, but I wasn't very good at making a living of it. So I think I made the right decision going to umpire school.
Jim, how were the TNT rivalries back then and the TNT games back then? Did you guys like each other across the canal?
Yeah, I think we respected each other. We had some vicious games, and a lot of things happened around the TNT game, like the year of the streaker and such like that. But I think. In fact, a lot of the Tonawanda high school players I played baseball with in the summer around North Tonawanda, with the teams would play each other, so we knew all the guys from Tonawanda. But once the kickoff came, there was no friendship till the game was over. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, though.
Back then, was there trash talking on the field?
Before the game, on the field. It was more before the games, a week leading up to it. They had quite a few little things like they'd have dinners for the TNT guys. You'd all be at one dinner. Somebody put on, like the Elders Club or something. I know the Third Warders always put on an annual TNT night just before the big game. And then all the players that played in years before that were still around would come. And so it was always interesting talking to the old timers about football. I call them old timers, but they probably were maybe 10 years older than me at the time. So it was fun.
Did you feel a sort of an amount of pressure that you guys had to do well and beat Tonawanda?
Boy, I don't know. I think my junior year, I think we won by an extra point. Paul Steiny kicked an extra point, and that got us that game. But then we went the next year over there. We played at home with Tonawanda. They beat us 20-0. That was not any fun to play in that game.
You've lived in California. You live in Phoenix right now. When you run into people, you want to have a conversation with them, and the topic turns to North Tonawanda, maybe North Tonawanda football. What do you tell these people?
Oh, well, it would depend a lot. If I knew the person at all, they'd know I was a North Tonawanda football supporter. Actually, I get season tickets for University of Buffalo. My son that still lives there gets them. And we go back and we try to work it out so we catch 4 or 5 games either in Buffalo or on the road because, all the schools in the MAC conference are around Buffalo, so pretty close. And so I'm always going back there for that. And I usually catch 2 or 3 high school games. If the schedule works, and it just works out. So when people start asking me about North Tonawanda, we end up talking about football. So,
how about you?
And I always share people the rivalry, the history of it. Yeah, I share with them the history of the rivalry going back, to the beginning of the 1900s. I mean, there's not many places that have this type of a traditional game that has continued on since way back when. So it's really cool to see that and to see it keep going and to see that the pride. I think talking to some of the guys that I played with as a younger kid, and then they get older, that's their biggest memories are the TNT game. I think they could lose every other game and win that game, and it would be a successful season to them.
You're back in North Tonawanda and you're driving by the old Payne Junior High School, or maybe you have. What goes through your mind when you go and see that empty building and a stadium that doesn't exist anymore?
Was that my phone? Yeah, I don't know. When I do go back, can't do it anymore. But I used to be able to go over to the school, and it was closed, of course, and for sale. But you could get in the back where the football stadium was, what they called the good field or the rock pile. I go back there and then just walk the perimeter of the field and across and look at the back of the school and just think of the memories of what went on there while I was going to high school. And then I always reflect on the night, the afternoon of school when I was going out on the field for my last practice. And it, just kind of dawned on me that I'd never play on that field again because our game the next day was up in LaSalle. That was the year when they had the big flu epidemic was flying around there, and the schedules got all screwed up. So you didn't know from week to week who you were going to play, because one school, it's like now with the pandemic that you don't know who's going to be sick and who's going to be able to play in your game, so they cancel them, and that's what they did with the flu. So they kept moving around instead of playing our 8-game schedule like it was drawn out. Like our 3rd or 4th games got canceled, so they had to find someone else that was canceling and real quick move who was playing where. So that made it kind of fun though. So, but anyhow, just realizing that I was never going to step out on that field and play football again. it still brings tears to my eye.
Had any memories on that? Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
Payne was a special memory for me. I mean, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and you know, playing football there, like I said, on that field, and that's where Dad went to high school, where I went to junior high, and you know, I knew just growing up listening to his stories I knew definitely the whole starting backfield and probably a few of the linemen, and a lot of the guys that he played with, I was playing with their kids and nieces and or nephews. And but Payne was a special place for me too, because playing basketball, I played my freshman year was Coach Al Ridge, great basketball coach. It was his first team, was that Payne team that we had. And playing baseball, Coach Eberwine, downstairs we had that locker room, and it felt like a big league clubhouse. So you know, the facilities were really great for sports there. With PE classes, you know, we just we'd have great games during school. Before we'd play floor hockey on the court. I remember 9th grade, they called it moving up day. It was the mud dance. It was my first date with a girl. So, you know, and you talk about nervous, I was more nervous about that dance than any sporting event I ever played. So just, you know, that's part of my past, part of growing up. And it's just kind of sad when I see the empty building now.
We have a lot of young players. I believe the coaches make or highly suggest that the today's players listen to the history and see some of these videos here that we put on the NT Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. What pieces of advice would you give today's players about North Tonawanda football and its tradition?
Yeah, I would emphasize to them that they're a part of something much bigger than themselves. They're a part of a rich tradition of great football. And, you know, I would just encourage them to be excellent. And I would also tell them, you know, to enjoy every practice. You know, practices are hot and long and tired, and sometimes you just wish they'd be over. But like Dad said, he walked out there and it was the last practice. We all faced that the last time we put on the pads, the last time you know, they teed it up and we kicked off and played football. So I would just encourage them to enjoy every game, every practice, because it's over way too soon. What about you, Dad? What would you say?
Probably just pretty much the same as you did. It's going to be way over. You know, your football career is usually 9 times out of 10 is going to end after your senior year. Most people aren't going to go on to college and play any more football. Heavy the ones that do get to do that. But, usually once you're done with high school football, you're pretty much done. And it's hard to face up to that sometimes. So.
Was it hard to take the helmet off and hang up the spikes when high school or college finished?
It was for me. I mean, I knew I wasn't going to college. I was going in the service, and I figured I didn't think at that time there was any chance of ever playing any service sports. So, and as it turns out, I was right. A lot of people played them, but I wasn't one of them. So they didn't choose me. But yeah, you're always looking for another place to put the pads on. But like I say, the last day at the practice, you figure this is pretty much it. So, and like I say, still to this day brings a tear to my eye. You think of all the guys that you played with, and that was usually your last contact.
How about you, Ted?
Yeah, you know, it's thanks to Dad. He really encouraged me just to keep playing as long as I could, and he helped make that happen, you know, with supporting me with financially and everything else, getting through college. And so I was able to play. I've got no regrets. When it was done, it was, for me, I knew it was like a next phase of life. If I didn't get into umpiring, if that didn't work out, I was going to get into coaching. So I think that's the way I was going to go. So when I walked off the field, I really didn't think it was, I knew it would be my last time playing, but I wasn't so sure it would be my last time being on a sideline. So like I said, I grew up with football in my blood, and I think that was where I was going to go. So it's kind of ironic that I ended up, you know, doing baseball as a way of making a living. because I really thought it would be football. But yeah, sometimes I think back on sometimes when I'm getting ready to go out and work the plate and put my chest protector on, and sometimes I'll think, okay, oh, where's my girdle? Where's my thigh pads? Where's my knee pads? It's like, no, wait, you're not playing anymore. You're getting ready to go out and umpire. So, yeah, it's something that so glad I did. I have no regrets on my career. And, you know, I would, again, just going back to your last question, I would just encourage kids to enjoy every minute of it.
If I could interject here as another final thought on finishing your career. My youngest son played JV football at a high school in California. And in one game, he got his ankle broken pretty severely. He had to have it operated on, and he was like a year in a cast with his ankle. And when he healed and got better, his mind was to go back and play sports. And he was trying to figure maybe he could be a goalie, soccer, or the football coach said, gee, Glenn, we'll pencil you in as center. We think you can be a center. And I told him that, I said, Glenn, it's up to you, but football is a game. It's a great game, but it's only a game. I said, your life's got to move on from here. You know, you can't do yourself any good playing football. So that was a sad ending for him.
Yeah,
his career was over.
I hate to admit it, but he probably would have been better than me, and played a long time. But don't tell him I said that. But yeah, so that taught us all to, hey, you never know when your last practice or your last game could come at any time because of an injury.
Ted, did you ever consider becoming a football official or maybe a basketball official, or was umpiring your main focus for your career?
You know, umpiring was the main one that I wanted to do. You know, when I played at the Tonawanda Football Clinic, Dick Grapes was our referee pretty much every weekend. There was a regular crew of I remember Mr. Marafino, Mr. Kakamis,
and Dick Grapes. Yeah.
And Dick Grapes. They were our crew, and I would work the chains for the younger games as I got older, and I would just talk to them and pick their brains. I prided myself that I knew the rules, and I knew the game. And again, thinking about coaching in the future. And Dick Grape's such a wonderful man. You know, I remember in the neighborhood on a hot day, we'd go by the house and he'd let us jump in his pool. Him and his wife were so gracious. And of course, you know, he's a legend in North Tonawanda. But to answer your question, you know, when I started umpiring professionally, we always had to work fall leagues. We had to work instructional leagues as a young minor league umpire. So I always wanted to do football, but the timing never worked out. And then basketball, I tried to do that a little bit. I'm a guy that I remember against, I think it was Ken East. I had 4 fouls, and Coach Jack Areno was my JV coach there at NT. And he said, Ted, you got 4 fouls. Try not to foul out. Well, went out, and then back then we used to jump ball to start each quarter. So we went out, start the second half. On the jump ball, I jumped into the guy and knocked him down. I got my 5th foul. So that didn't last very long in the second half. But I say that because I'm a guy who fouled out a lot during my basketball days. I tried reffing basketball, and that is such a fast game, and I didn't know the rules as well as I should. So, you know, when people yelling at me, at least in baseball, when they yell at me, I know why. But I had people yell at me in basketball, and I had no idea why they were yelling. So I said, I'm not going to do that sport anymore. But I do enjoy, I'm studying a little bit to start referee boxing as I get older. I can't fight anymore, but maybe I can be the 3rd guy in the ring.
Which tougher? I got a question for you. What's tougher, 2-a-days in summer camp or umpiring behind home plate?
Well, as I get older, umpiring behind home plate gets tougher. But, you know, the 2-a-days, I remember just being, no matter how much you prepared for it, how sore you would be. But I also remember I riding my bike over to from home over to NT to get ready for the 2-a-day practices, and one of your old teammates, right? I parked my bike and
park in his yard,
park in his backyard, and I just remember the smell of the grass in the morning out there practicing behind the high school, and us being there all day. So, you know, it's one of those things when you're going through it, you wish you weren't. But now I'd kind of like to go back and do that again and have a young legs again and get out there and start playing again. Wouldn't that be cool?
We've talked about a few things right now. What would you like to talk about that I haven't asked you about?
Well, for me, I just want to say again, with Dad, you know, growing up, listening to the stories of football games, and not only that, just going to games, going to NT games, but we'd go to other games too. If there was a high school or a team he wanted to see or a player he wanted to see, we'd go watch it. And just sitting down and talking about doing X's and O's on the table, and talking football, talking formations. I felt like I had a lot of knowledge. Even as I got older, my coaches were impressed with that I knew things like unbalanced lines and single wings and wing tees and Delaware tees and you know, these type of things. So I feel like I had a great education growing up in NT on football. Also, you know, I've traveled around quite a bit, and when I meet old coaches, I remember I had the opportunity to I went to Australia to play in an exhibition game, and Sam Ritigliano was on the trip. And Coach Ritigliano asked me where I was from, and I told him I was from North Tonawanda, and he said that he had actually had conversations with Coach Vetter. And so, you know, he said that a group of them had gone to talk with Coach Vetter about his offense. So, you know, again, I take a lot of pride now. And when I bring up North Tonawanda, my friends that I work with, they always laugh because I'll see someone with a Bills hat and I'll say, "Hey, go Bills," you know, and they'll say, "Where are you from?" "I'm from Williamsville." "Oh, I'm from North Tonawanda." And then, you know, sometimes it leads to football, or it leads to talk about, you know, something else. So we took a lot of pride in the 2009 when they won the championship. And I remember 1981 sitting at Rich Stadium with 1981 or fall of 80 maybe, when they won the
80, the first year they had the game at the stadium where
at Rich Stadium,
yeah. Triple A, double A. Yeah.
The football stadium.
Yeah, the football stadium.
Yeah.
The first year when North Tonawanda beat Orchard Park for some kind of mythical title. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you still played your regular league games, and then they took the two best teams and they played each class. It was an all-day football at the stadium. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was neat. It was cold too. We stayed for all the games.
My, you know, the 79 game that my brother Jerry played in, and Tim Noka kicked a field goal there at Small Stadium. We thought it was good for the win, but it was wide.
Yeah.
So it was the emotions of it. Just so much fun being a part of that. Dave Hollins played third base played for Seattle, played for Philadelphia, and he was the quarterback on that Orchard Park team with Ronnie Pitts and I think one of your guys, Lex Luger. Wasn't he an Orchard Park guy? Played football.
Larry Pohl, absolutely.
Yeah. So these type of connections, as I talk to people as I go around the country. Well, Dave Hollins, I remember I was working third base one day, and I said, "Hey, I saw you play at Orchard Park," and I told him I was from North Tonawanda. He said, "Man, you guys were tough. You guys were some tough guys." So yeah, it always comes up in my conversations.
Well, you guys have represented the North Tonawanda community admirably all these years. And I know a lot of people thank you for that. And now a lot of people, when they look at a Major League Baseball game, it's not just about the team. They want to find out who the umpires are. And people from North Tonawanda know when Ted Barrett's, you know, one of the umpires in one of these games. I want to thank both of you. This has been a lot of fun and very, you know, for taking the time to do this and taking the stroll down memory lane. As I said, talking to you guys is going to be on my bucket list near the top, and now I'll be able to cross that off. So Jim Barrett, Ted Barrett, thank you so much for joining me on the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel today. I wish you well. I wish you good health, and I wish you much success in the future. Thank you so much, guys.
Well, thank you for having us. That was nice.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Thanks for allowing us to do this together. It's a special memory for us.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best. Thank you so much, guys. Be good.
Nice seeing you.